Great news for first-time home buyers.
Great.
This is great news. We have good stuff to talk about, and I want to break this video up accordingly, all right? I would love for us to just go through these new first-time home buyer programs.
First-time home buyers.
And talk about the Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye program, Delaware Diamonds, who qualifies for it, what you need to know, what type of home can you get, and the interest rates are lower than anything we saw in 2023?
Yeah, they're in the 5%.
This is,
It's
awesome.
It's below 6%, and you're getting like you can get up to like 5 figures for closing.
Yes.
Like, they could pay for...
They advertise it.
They can pay for like a lot of your loan cost. You can use the money towards inspections, but you get your money back for your EMD deposit.
Because that's a common question. Hey, if I use a 100% financing program, can I also use money towards like my closing costs, my appraisal? And yes, you can.
Yes, that's what it's used for.
So I want to go through that together. We're going to go through the 101 of a mortgage. For anyone listening to this, it's like, I haven't even considered buying a home before. This might be my first ever video.
If you're still living at mom and dad's, you haven't rented,
that's
you
cool.
haven't bought a home,
That's
you're just thinking about it.
I love it.
This video is for you.
For you, especially the 101 section, so that we can go through what is a mortgage? Where should you get it from? How much are you getting pre-approved for? What is a pre-approval? Just getting into like the real basic nitty gritty. And then let's finish. We've had a big request for this because a lot of people are looking toward 2025 to buy a home. A 12-month prep list, what you should be doing right now and really for the next 12 months, 50 plus weeks to prepare to buy a home. Not necessarily to do it next week, but what you can do to set yourself up to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
So the biggest thing that comes to my mind firsthand are just two things. Save as much cash as possible.
Yeah.
And don't miss any debt payments.
Ooh, that's 2 of the 11 things I have on the list, so we'll get to it. So, but those are 2 fantastic ones.
Yeah, save as much cash as possible, be as liquid as possible. Don't make any large purchases before that if you can help it.
And being liquid, meaning have cash available.
Yes.
I didn't know what liquid meant until I was like 20.
I thought it was supposed to be water.
English is weird. It's America, especially with our terms. But I want to read through this. We got 2 different programs brought to us by the Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye program, and more specifically, the Delaware State Housing Authority. Now, the Delaware State Housing Authority has had programs like this in the past.
Yeah.
They typically are well-funded throughout the year, and throughout my career, through the early, 2015, 2016 on, it's always been a funded program. Now, because of the demand for it, it comes seldomly.
I want to dive a little bit deeper on that. I don't think that it's necessarily demand. It's the amount of pent-up demand.
Pent-up demand.
There's not enough inventory.
Yeah.
It's just the demand keeps snowballing because the people that were looking like a couple years ago are still kind of melting around.
Back and forth. Yeah. I feel a lot of people watching this, you may be one of them, are kind of the ones on the fence, would move if the right home popped up, but it feels like every 6 months that you wait, the perfect home is that much farther away.
Yeah, but if you're not actionable in your home purchase and you're just kind of like, I'll buy this, especially in the first-time home buyers market, you're going to miss opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, anything you put more effort into is obviously going to usually turn it a little better for you.
Yeah, but if you're just window browsing, looking on Zillow, and
it's a tough market to do it in.
You're looking at houses and you're just like, oh, this is the perfect one. I'm starting now.
Yeah, get prepared before the perfect one shows up is what you're saying.
Yeah, like if you're just literally waiting until the perfect home shows up to start talking to a lender, to get your financing in line, and to get that pre-approval set together and to start talking to an agent, first and foremost, I feel like everything's going to be rushed, even if you can get the house purchased.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are going to get missed by the wayside, I guess.
Yeah, missed by the wayside when you're rushing into a humongous purchase like that is a good way of putting it. You don't want to miss details.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the details because I know a lot of people want to know, okay, what does the Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye program offer? What is the Delaware State Housing Authority giving to first-time home buyers? There's 5 different specific programs, 2 of which just became available. I'm going to finish with those 2. I'm going to start with 3 that are just have been a part of this. All right, so that's the First State Home Loan. The First State Home Loan provides funds in the amount of 3% of the first mortgage loan amount to assist with down payment and closing costs. First loan amount, not a lot of people know you can have multiple mortgages. Usually the secondary mortgage is to either, it's not usually on the same property for a home. It's usually because somebody put a lien for a septic tank that they had done, or even the Delaware State Housing Authority has grants that they'll put down as a secondary mortgage that has to get paid when you sell it. It's not necessarily going to another bank and asking for a second mortgage.
Interest payments and all that junk. Like, it's literally just like, hey, borrow this money from us. And when you're done borrowing it, give it back.
Yeah, pretty much. Repayment of this loan is deferred until the home is sold, refinanced, or is no longer the primary residence. So that's exactly what you just said. So again, First State provides 3% of the final first mortgage loan. So if the home was $250K, you put down, or you were going to actually finance $230,000 of that. 3% of 230 would be $6,900.
Yeah.
You would get that money towards your down payment.
Yep.
Towards closing costs if it supersedes it. And then that money sits, like you said, as a lien against the home that is then paid back when you sell it, refinance it, or it is no longer the primary residence.
Yep.
All right. Home Sweet Home program. Actually, wait, let me do the welcome home. Welcome Home is for first-time home buyers. A first-time home buyer has not owned a home as a primary residence in the past 3 years. And the Home Again program is for repeat buyers. But when a home buyer is ready to purchase their next home, DSHA offers financing options that can make the process simpler. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with closing cost assistance. You can also just get a flat-out better interest rate using the Delaware State Housing Authority.
There's some tax reductions that you can have as well, too, that if you're looking for those kind of incentives. Like, there's a bunch of different things that the Delaware State Housing Authority makes themselves, like, I guess you could say, kind of cool.
Yeah. No, it kind of cool.
Well, I'm trying to talk to, like, first-time home buyers. I'm trying to get up with the millennials. Like, you know.
We are millennials.
Shit.
All right, so these are, so again, the welcome home side of things. As for anybody who's not purchased in the last 3 years, the Delaware State Housing Authority is always available. And then the Home Again program, again, always available. You're getting the tax benefits. You're getting possibly a lower interest rate. The First State Home Loan is a down payment assistance program, and that's one that's been around now. I want to get into the two that we wanted to talk about, which are the Home Sweet Home program and the Delaware Diamonds program.
These are nuts.
These are also limited fund programs.
Yeah, but I mean, it's for great cause. Like, I wouldn't say it's for great cause that they're limitedly funded, but these programs are really sought after. And with all these incentives that are put on top of it, like, they have to put a limit on how much happens with this, or else this could be a huge program that the state could be losing a lot of money on.
Yeah, they have a set amount of funds.
Yeah.
Set amount of funds. The amount is $5 million. They have $5 million toward this program, and let's get into it. So the Home Sweet Home program provides $12,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for homes purchased with a sales price of $285,000 or less. Let's stop right there. I hate that. I get why they're doing it. I think from the outside looking in, the thought process is that's going to put more homeowners in areas where typically there may be renters. But at the same exact time, you and I both know the under $300,000 home is kind of disappearing little by little. And to say this has to be a $285,000 home, I think that becomes the one kink in this program because there's just not a lot of those.
So not only is there not a lot of those, everybody's looking for a home underneath that price point, trying to buy their first home because the payments on it.
Yeah.
Like, this makes it affordable. And it's already a demanding price point. Like, a lot of people are trying to buy homes in that price point already. This is just going to make it a little bit worse. It's going to raise up the competition.
Raising the competition, yeah. Just to put perspective on worse.
Yeah.
Worse in terms of the competition for that home will go up, so the home seller's going to be happy in that
the
scenario.
sellers are going to be fantastic, but if you're
going up against cash, you're going up against people with equity as a first-time home buyer. It's difficult, and that's why programs like this exist, though.
Yeah, no,
that's why it
100%.
exists.
Like, I'm not trying to, like, scare people away from trying to buy a home. I'm not trying to say, like, it's the scariest and hardest thing in the world.
Just a tougher year to do it.
Just know that probably the first time that you're going to put an offer in, you're probably not going to get.
Could, or at least there's going to be competition.
Yes,
there's going to be. If the line I say is, if you're looking for this, someone else is looking for this. And if someone says, I want to get a mortgage under $1,600, like, okay, a lot of people want that. So when that
100%.
opportunity presents itself, there's going to be a lot of people interested in it. Let's finish that. Home Sweet Home. I want to run back through that. Again, offers $12,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for homes purchased with a sales price of $285,000 or less. The assistance is in the form of a second mortgage loan, but this one's a little different from the first one.
it's really cool.
which is forgiven 10% each year up to year 10 with verification that the residence has remained the borrower's primary home. That is pretty cool.
It's basically Delaware State Housing Authority saying like, hey, we're going to give you that money that we said we were going to give you before, but you don't owe us again after 10 years.
You have to live there as a primary residence.
Listen.
Which means it's not a rental property. And if it is, you're renting it to roommates because you're still there.
Yes.
It has to be a home that you go to on a day-to-day basis. And
your mail's got to go there.
Mail's got to go there. I love this program. It's the first they've had for this amount of funding that's forgivable.
Yeah. And I mean, the qualifications, let's circle back around. The qualifications for this are a little bit more niche-y. Like the fact that you're going to be underneath $285,000 to begin with is kind of like puts a lot of areas out of perspective. Like you're not going to be able to use this program probably in Middletown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And at the $285,000 price point, just to put it in perspective, if someone's listening to this, like, hey, where should I look to buy in Delaware if I want to buy for $285,000 and less? I'd say immediately look into townhomes, not single-family detached. Yeah. That's going to unlock a lot of opportunity.
100%.
You can't, just to be very clear, look into single wides and double wides with this program, but you can look into Class C. And the difference being that is a single wide or a double wide usually, that is on a permanent foundation.
You can't even do a single wide unless it's 12 feet in diameter, too.
Yeah, that's a niche one, but I wanted to mention it. You're right. The double wide's the more common one anyway.
Yeah.
Class C, couple different ways it can be on permanent foundation, but either way, that could be a way to get under $285,000.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is once it's put on a permanent foundation, it's basically saying like, hey, this house is not going to be able to move again.
Yep.
The title's retired, saying that it's a deed now.
It's not a car anymore.
There's so many things that have to happen with a mobile home. So talk to an expert first before you're like, I'm going to go buy that trailer with this program they told me about.
And then who knows? Maybe you get a realtor who's listing it that doesn't know the difference, and you can get into a hairy situation when you don't know what you're doing there.
Yes. And trailers are more complicated than anything else.
Let's get into the second of the two programs. Now, this one is, if you remember the COVID times, and you remember being labeled an essential worker, this is probably a program that's gonna be for you. And the beauty of this is it doesn't come with any of the niche qualifications for the price.
Yeah.
The niche qualification is what do you do for work? So the Delaware, what were you gonna say before I
was just gonna say, let's just go through the list that they have listed here as far as the major groups.
Let me. Can I list out the criteria and then you run through the jobs? Yeah, I got it. That's a good idea though. So the Delaware Diamonds provides $10,000, so not $12,000, $10,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for eligible occupations as determined by DSHA. Delaware State Housing Authority. The assistance is in the form of a second mortgage loan, again, which is forgiven 10% each year up to year 10 with verification the residence has remained the borrower's primary home. Again, that's forgivable. You stay there for 10 years.
They're just giving you money.
They're giving you money. So like you said, there's some specific occupations they're considering for that mortgage program. You want to list them off?
So basically, Delaware State employees, you work for the state of Delaware, you're eligible for this program. Educators, if you work at anything that's employed by a public or private school, you're eligible.
Anything. So it doesn't mean, because I actually had this conversation with a person who worked at a school.
Yeah.
And she said, do I qualify for it? And yes.
Yes.
Administrative, principal, teacher.
If you're a custodian, I'm pretty sure you get this.
Yeah. You're employed by a public or private school district. Seems pretty generic to cover everybody.
Yes. Medical personnel, employed by Christiana Care, St. Francis, BB. Bay Health, Nemours, the VA hospital. And honestly, the last two are pretty important as well. First responders, firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, volunteer first responders, and then the military personnel.
Yep.
The biggest and most important of them all.
Active duty personnel from the military, and I want to go through this one. This is not just active. This also is for National Guard, Space Force, or the reserves. I have not seen anyone with a Space Force pre-approval in Delaware yet, though.
I actually just closed on a guy from Space Force.
No way.
I'm a liar.
I was about to say, how did I not know about that? It must provide a copy of the LES, or basically verify eligibility if you're in the military.
DD 214.
DD 214 for my vets. Let me go back to medical personnel. Another conversation, and this was one I had a couple days ago. This had nothing to do with this program, but there have been programs in the past that have been for nurses. And she said, hey, I work the front desk at Christiana Care. could I qualify for a program? And I thought of this one. I actually had to look up the details, and it is anybody who's employed by one of these hospitals.
If you're working at the cafeteria of Christiana Care,
yes,
you're eligible.
You are eligible. You're considered essential personnel. You are a part of this. You're a part of the overarching system that makes it all go, as far as education, the medical field, military, law enforcement, our state. All of these are integral parts of how our local economy runs. So they should have a great program for them, and they do. $10,000. Really no questions asked. All you have to do is qualify for an FHA mortgage.
Yes.
Do you want to walk through what that would look like? So if somebody's listening to this, just to set it up, and you're thinking, hey, what do I need to get a mortgage? And then we can walk into a little 101, all right, on like basics of it. But what are the like 4 things you're looking for financially with somebody to get them qualified for a mortgage, especially FHA?
First 3 things that I'm going to talk to you about is, A, what's your credit score?
Credit score needs to be above a 620.
It doesn't necessarily need to, depending on certain situations, but a 620 and above is what's going to put you in the best situation.
And I think specifically DSHA, you want to be above a 640 for a lot of these programs.
Yeah, no, FHA certificate, FHA eligibility is totally different based on what your current credit score is.
Yeah, so let's talk this program though specifically. So looking 640.
Yeah, 640. With the money that you're going to be getting from the Delaware State Housing Authority, I usually recommend people have $15,000. You could probably come with like $7,500, because with these programs, if you're going to be exhausting all of your funds from the bank and you have no reserves, that's going to be a red flag for them. A lot of people don't think about that and they don't consider that. Sure, you might only need $1,500 for the home, but they're still going to want to see 2 to 3 months worth of reserves inside your bank account to make them feel better when you're buying this house.
Yeah, because the bank ultimately wants to make sure their mortgage is going to get paid every month.
And trust me, I've had people recently close on houses and come to the table, come to closing with less than $3,000 or $2,500 to make this happen. But they also had to have money in the bank account just to be like, hey, just because I'm coming with this low amount of money into settlement doesn't mean that I'm not going to have money to pay my mortgage. That's all the bank's worried about.
Yeah, income savings.
So next one is basically your income. You kind of want to make sure if you're a single person, you don't have any debt, meaning that you don't have a car payment, you're not paying child support, any of that extra stuff, you're probably going to want to at least make $60,000 or more. That just makes you eligible for the income limits for a lot of housing and everything that's happening today, because you need to make 3 times as much as you do month. You need to bring home 3 times as much monthly than your mortgage payment in order for banks to feel secure about it.
Yeah, good rule of thumb, yeah.
And once you start intricating debt to it, like if you have like a $600 car payment that's going to pull away from everything, if you owe $700 a month in child support, that's going to pull away from everything as well.
Yeah, credit cards, student debts.
Yeah, so things we went over: credit score, how much money you need, your income.
Yeah, income-wise, I think that's a good one. $60,000 if you're in the single realm. A lot of people would say household income right now should be closer to about $100,000, $96,000 to qualify for a lot of different homes.
What gets you for $100,000 a year as far as your household income after debt doesn't get as much as you used to.
No, not even close. And that could be a whole separate video we could talk about.
But anyway, yeah.
So basic qualifications: credit score above 640. Look to have 7,500 as a good.
With these programs,
it's a good goal. You can have less, but like you said, the more the better. More negotiating power, more cards you got.
Yeah.
Be at your job for the last year is another one.
Yeah.
Basic FHA qualification.
It's a little bit complicated when it comes to that, because if you have a verifiable income, like let's just say you started your salary job and they have like a letter of employment, you could use that too if you haven't been there for 2 years. Let's just say you're going to be working in a hospital and you're a nurse and you're making like 6 figures a year. That's something that you don't have to be at a place for 2 years. Or even if you're switching over to like a like job. So if you're going from construction to construction, you're both a W-2 employee, and it's like like-minded work, you can use those switches as well. So being at the job for at least a year is not always as important, as long as it's a specific thing that you're doing.
Sure. And upgrading your career is never going to be seen as a detriment.
Unless you're completely switching careers. If you're going from car salesman to lobotomist, like, I don't know.
Is that still a job these days?
I don't think so, but just saying.
Another one where if someone's working with a pre-approval from a lobotomist, we need to have a conversation about it. All right, let's get into Mortgage 101. I want 10 minutes or less. Let's educate anybody who's watching this, who's never bought a home, never thought about buying a home, who really doesn't even know the first steps. Let's talk about the details of what these things are. First off, a mortgage. That is a secured debt against a home you're looking to purchase. The bank puts up the money. and then you pay them back over a set period of time, usually 30 years. And in Delaware, the average mortgage payment right now, you're looking at about $2,100. I'd say realistically, you could get in for $1,500 to $1,700, but it's going to take a lot more hunting and maybe waiting around for a better interest rate or possibly more money down.
Yeah, I'm about to say, if you have like $40,000 in the bank account, $1,500, $1,600 becomes a lot more feasible.
Sure.
Putting money towards down payment, maybe prepaying some interest, which isn't always the best thing, but if it's the best thing for you, like it works if you're really payment sensitive.
What are the main mortgages and which one should I go after as a first-time home buyer?
First-time home buyer, FHA. Unless you're a veteran, then you go after the VA.
Okay.
And to break those down, the FHA is just the Fair Housing Authority's loan program that's backed by the government and basically holds the same exact standards that the veterans loan program works as well too. So the VA, basically you have to be either, you probably can speak a little bit better on this, you have to be eligibly discharged or you can still be currently active.
Yeah, there's a few different scenarios you can get it, because even if you've only been in for 3 years and you've deployed, you automatically get it. So that it's called the VA certification. So if you have a VA cert, it's pretty much it. And there's a couple ways to get it.
Yeah, but those are backed by the government. So once the government's involved, they're going to make sure that their assets are going to be taken care of, meaning the government's going to be really sure not to waste their money. They're going to get it back. And the way they do this is because they go over extra appraisal standards, which means if you go for just a regular mortgage from the bank, which is AKA a conventional loan, this is going to have a little bit more red tape, but for good cause. It's going to make sure that the things in the house are safe. It's going to make sure that it meets certain qualifications so that it's going to be raised in value instead of dropping. And they do a lot of that stuff for you just for an extra like $600-700 for the appraisal.
Yeah, and it's a part of the transaction. It's a part of the bank's steps of making sure, like you said, they're backing financially a good asset.
Yeah. They want to make sure that it's not going to be falling apart over the next 5 years. It's going to be gaining money, making the government happy.
And you mentioned conventional loan. Just to name the couple mortgage types, there's a conventional loan. There's a VA loan, which is the veterans. There's the FHA loan, which is what we've been talking about. There's also a USDA loan. A couple other income limiting factors there that can make it a little tougher. Another opportunity to 100% financing if it works, though. And you can only buy in rural areas.
And to be completely honest, I mean, there probably are areas in the United States where USDA is a great program. And I mean, there are areas in Delaware.
Delaware is a good area.
Where USDA is a great program. It's just with the closing cost assistance from the FHA program and the lack of income limits and I guess you could say tight squeezes as far as who qualifies and who doesn't. The FHA is usually the better program with a lower interest rate and a lot less money at the closing table.
Yep. And then last one would be conventional. And usually that only works if you're putting more than 10, 20% down. Who should I get a mortgage with?
Depends.
Okay. So if I'm thinking of getting a mortgage, where do I go?
So my first experience, and at least my experience in real estate, is that you go with somebody that's going to pick up the phone on the weekends and at nights. Somebody that's going to be local to the area that you're working at, that knows all the programs and grants that are going to be able to help out in your situation. You don't want to go to a giant conglomerate because sure, they might be able to offer like a slightly lower interest rate, usually not always the most competitive, but they're going to kill you in the lending fees at closing. Like there's probably going to be an extra $5,000, $6,000, maybe even $10,000 that you're going to have to pay in order to get this premium interest rate.
Yeah, whether it's by getting the money at the closing table or by getting their money in the first 3 years of just simply holding your mortgage. That's another one people don't look at, is how the balloon is structured as to when they get their interest.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize the first couple of years you live in a house, you're not really paying it down too often if you have a mortgage that's structured poorly.
Yes.
Realistically, what is a dollar amount I should have saved before I start looking to buy a home?
If you can use the first-time home buyers programs that we talked about and you're getting like $10,000 at settlement, like I said, $7,500. But a general rule of thumb, if you're buying your first house in the state of Delaware and you don't have any grants or programs that are going to be helping out and holding your back, $15,000.
15 grand. If someone has less than 15 grand, should they not start the home buying search or process?
Absolutely. You should still start because there's tons of incentives and programs out there, and there's also a bunch of different ways for myself as a realtor that can find that money for you, whether it's from the seller or we find it through some sort of lending program, a gift, anything like that. There's options out there for you, but in order to make sure that it's going to be more feasible for it to happen, 15 grand really helps you get get to that point.
It's a good target too to set for yourself.
Yeah, but if you have 10 grand and you want to start trying to buy a house, call me. There are situations out there, depending on where you're looking at, that we can still make this happen.
Got this question in the comments the other day. What makes you uneligible for a mortgage? And then you had said it before this too, so
yeah.
I'm curious.
Don't have $1,000 car payment and try and buy your first house.
Becoming so much more common.
I mean, unless you're making a significant amount of money to offset that, sure. But if you're making that 60 grand and you have that $1,000 a month car payment, you're gonna be able to get approved for like a $120,000 loan, and that won't be able to buy you shit.
Yeah, I think the general rule of thumb is just don't put yourself in a week to week. I need my check. Oh, being paycheck to paycheck is what they call it. You know? If you're paycheck to paycheck, whether you make $150K or $50K, it's going to be tougher to qualify because mortgage officers are looking at your debt to income. You'll hear DTI.
Yeah.
And that's how much do you make versus how much do you owe every single month. That's how they do the math to make sure you can be able to pay the mortgage. Yeah. And there's a lot of people, like you said, that have $1,000 car payment and finance their phone and are living financially a little above their means, and it's keeping them from being able to buy a house.
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people. Well, this is a scenario. Like I know plenty of people that make really good incomes, have great salaries, and do very well for themselves. But on top of it, they live that lifestyle that causes them to have a lot of revolving debt on top of their student loans, on top of their large car payment, on top of their large financing for their cell phone, that furniture that they borrowed for, that PS5 that they got from Rent-A-Center and all that stuff too. It's going to really pull you away from being able to be able to purchase a home with a mortgage.
It is going to hold you back. I'm sorry, I'm pulling my live, by the way. It's pat.loft on Instagram and zachary.loft on Instagram. I'm going to go live real quick. So before we get into this last 12-month prep list, I got two more questions on the Mortgage 101. When is the best time to buy?
Yesterday.
Okay. So if I'm unable to do that, when, and I get what you're saying there. You're saying when you can.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, there is never a perfect time to buy. Ever. The best time to buy is when you buy. And I mean, there's going to be reasons why you should, there's going to be reasons why you shouldn't, and they're going to be going back and forth with each other. Like when interest rates were low and your monthly payments were significantly lower, you had to basically go $50,000 above asking price in order to get your offer even like looked at.
Yeah, there's there's always a pro and a con.
And now that interest rates are in the 6s and 7s, and with these programs now in the 5s, sure, you might have a higher monthly mortgage payment, but you're not going up against as many competing offers.
So is there ever a time where all the smoke clears?
No.
It just seems like there's always an issue, like some big con that goes up against it.
If you plan on being able to live in this home for the next 3 years, I can almost guarantee you, unless there is a contributing factor that basically blows up the entire world economy, you're going to make money at the end of the day as long as you keep up on your monthly mortgage payment.
Saying like you're going to have equity by that point.
You're going to have equity by that point. It's probably going to be lower than the standard rental payment by that point. And it's for the first couple of years, you're going to be biting a bullet. It's going to be tough to purchase a home, but you got to look towards the future. And
we're not, to be clear, promoting put yourself in a tight financial situation to buy. You can. But there are a lot of people right now who look at buying a home and look at $2,500 a month and just think that's not attainable for me right now. And then you look at the rental opportunity and then you're like, oh, that's, $2,250, sometimes $2,500 a month too. Like, what are my options? And long term, I have this is my last question of, is the best solution make more money?
100%.
And that's just so empathetic, though. Like I want to give a better answer.
I don't want to sit here and sugarcoat everything. If you're having a problem paying a normal rental payment right now and you're unable to save money and you're struggling with debt, it's not going to be a right time for you to purchase. But the best way to probably put yourself out of that situation, unempathetically speaking, is figure out what can happen the next 3, 6, 12, 24 months that can make you more money in the long run.
And we're going to talk about that 12 months. I'm going to give a 12-month prep list. And what's the line then? Let's talk about that. What's the line between what you just said in terms of if you have debts against you, if you're struggling with paying this, and home buying probably shouldn't start. What's the line that I guess gets moved ahead with a program like this? When you can get a lower interest rate, when you can get some money from the state, like, is this something that opens a door for someone that's struggling, or should this still be somebody who has their ducks theoretically in a row?
The biggest thing is if you have an income that basically can feed you and your family, you have money in savings that is higher than $5,000, and your credit score is above a 600, this makes you a little bit more eligible and puts you in a better situation to make this happen sooner.
Again, that Delaware State Housing Authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not saying that people outside of those parameters still can't purchase, but it's going to be tough.
So, then let's talk about the tough. Let's talk about 12-month prep list.
Yeah.
So this was a hard prep list to make. And for anyone watching this, we're on live and YouTube as well. I want to be very clear. We said this up front. The best answer for being able to qualify for more home when you come time to purchase, or have more negotiating power when it comes time to make an offer if you choose to enter a market that is more competitive. Because like we mentioned, if interest rates go down, if home prices were to just magically skyrocket down, competition skyrockets up.
Yeah.
If you're in one of these markets, the best option in your 12-month prep list is find a way to make more money.
Yes. And this think about it like this. Sure, if you're not in the most opportune situation, your scenario is going to be totally different. Do you want to be in a situation where you can kind of pick and choose what you want to live in, or is this going to be your only option?
Yeah, it's the debate on, like, is this impossible right now, or is it just more difficult right now? And the situation sometimes is it's just more difficult to buy than the rent right now. It's a little bit more convenient to choose the rental than the purchase, but then that convenience, like, it's always a little bit more convenient. But then after 7-8 years, when you chose to rent instead of own, that little bit of convenience is now totaled in you not having $80,000, $100,000 in equity that you can move around and shift your whole family line with. But before we getting deeper into this, there's a lot of people that are sitting here like, Zach, I'm not choosing to not buy. I simply can't.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear nothing from you, Grandma. I don't care that you were a grocery store clerk and you could buy a house in the 60s and your monthly mortgage payment was like 5 times more than what you made.
Come on, Grandma Pat. What are you doing?
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like, buying now is harder than it has ever been on the face of the planet.
That's absolutely factual. There's nothing dramatic about that. So let's get into the 12-month checklist, knowing now is historically one of the, if not the hardest time to be able to financially purchase a home in American history. We've attempted to put together a 12-month prep list on how you could get started if you hadn't up until now.
Yeah.
All right. So number one's credit score. We mentioned getting above a 640 as a goal, 620 kind of the minimum, and then you have a soft minimum that kind of floats down to 580, 560 if you have money.
Yes.
You have to have money.
Yeah.
You're not getting a 580 credit score mortgage with
and
$500.
I don't mean a couple dollars in the bank account. I mean like 20,000 plus.
I'm about to say 20% plus sometimes for getting into a lot of these programs. So credit score, make sure you're also, I put this in my notes, not just looking to improve it, get credit monitoring. I have a love and a hate for an app named Credit Karma. It is fantastic for letting you know when something has happened to your credit score, when something has shifted, when someone's made a claim, when there's a new debt, all that. But it is awful for telling you what your actual credit score is, what your FICO credit score is. So for monitoring, get an app like that. For actually knowing what it is, go to Experian. Go to freecreditscore.com or freecreditreport.com. They changed their name. I don't know what it is now.
There used to be a song about it.
It used to be why would you change it after having such a great song? I don't know. Going from there, bank statement audits. I'm talking high-level stuff. We're not talking just stuff you're going to find on Google. So bank statement audits. I'm talking about end of the month. I do this for the business and personally, going into your bank account and looking through your transactions, looking through the money that came in, looking through the money that went out. And money in may be very simple. Hey, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. Boom. Out. What's going out? Because a lot of people, and most of the people that are hearing this don't feel like they're in that group of a lot. And they probably are overspending what they should be.
You don't need to go to Taco Bell that often.
or unbeknownst to them, just stuff coming out of their bank account they may not even know about. And there's a lot of people who accidentally spend 40, 50 bucks a day on food. And until you put your eyes to it and you really soak it in, sometimes that audit does that and allows you to set up your financial situation a little better. I read a great book called The Compound Effect, which referenced that. And it's just the little things at a time. You don't think canceling the one subscription is going to lead to enough money for a down payment, but it can structure your financial literacy and your skills with money to the point where you could get there. Any other thoughts on monitoring the money in and out?
Yeah, I mean, it's super important. And if you're not using a bank account and you're just kind of putting cash inside a bucket, it makes you ineligible for this too.
Yes.
Like
mattress money can't get you a mortgage.
Yeah, no, it really can't. And I mean, sure, don't trust the banks, but that's the way you're going to get a house.
Yeah, no. And we have a lot of independent contractors, like OnlyFans, even like people who work at strip clubs, and they understand they had to file taxes on a lot of tip money and a lot of independent contractor money. But a lot of people in the independent contractor world choose to avoid doing that. And it bites you in the butt when you go to buy a house because you've only told the government you made $30,000. Yeah. And meanwhile, you made a lot more.
For example, like I resonate with that fact so much because when I was a bartender making $1,000 some nights when I was working down at the beach, I didn't claim all of that. I didn't want to pay taxes on that. So it made it look like I made significantly less. And before I got into real estate, I wasn't eligible to purchase my first home.
It's so common with tips. It's so common with bonuses.
I was fuming because nobody educated me about that. Like, sure, you don't want to pay tax money, but if you do want to buy a house, you're going to have to.
And it's a silly thing because the government can see how much money's going in and out of your bank account. They know how much you got. But yeah, you're right. If you're not claiming it, if you're not saying this is what I made, then the bank's going to not give you a mortgage because they're not going to believe you actually make that much money, whether you do or not.
Yeah.
So bank statement audits and, like you said, making the right amounts up. I put make more money, but I also put save plus invest money. I like so here's an idea. And again, we're throwing out higher level stuff.
We are not a financial advisor.
We're not financial advisors. So here's my level of investing plus saving. So you mentioned Taco Bell earlier, right? Like, let's say you're driving down the road and you think to yourself, I'm going to go get Taco Bell. And then you think to yourself, I'm an investor, not a consumer. I need to save for things in my future life. And then you have an app called, I don't know, like you could download Robinhood, one of the easy ones.
Cool.
And say, put $20 that you were going to spend at Taco Bell into Robinhood. Catch is you can't then still go to Taco Bell. The money is gone. You have to pretend as if I was willing to lose that money. I'm going to choose to invest it instead of spend it.
Yeah.
And again, you're building a little bit of a better financial skill set there. Another thing you're doing is if that money's going into something like an ETF, or it could be a stock or company that you believe in, or even a bond, or even crypto. But I firmly believe in a nice ETF fund, which is basically can be a piece of every company in the S&P 500. Warren Buffett, people that are humongous investors, Tony Robbins, fully suggest, because you're going to get usually 6, 8, 10, 12% on your money on an annual basis. And if you're looking for that extra little chunk of change on money that you were going to set aside and not really look at anyway, why not put it somewhere, or at least some of it somewhere, where it can grow for you instead of letting inflation slowly make the money worth less.
Yeah.
So that's another savings idea. The last two are really much more action focused. Number one, connect with an agent because we can get you hooked into our MLS. We can get you linked into our specifically Bright MLS.
I was just having a conversation with one of my clients that I'm showing houses to tomorrow. They're just like, hey, I still see that house that you said that we can't purchase is still active for sale on Zillow. It's because they're 48 hours behind.
Yeah.
Their information is kind of askew. And I mean, 48 hours doesn't mean much when you're trying to buy a house to you maybe, but to us, it means everything.
Yeah, because that's the information we're giving you. And in a market where a home can be off the market like that.
Yeah, I've seen homes sold in 2 hours and it's made me very upset.
And it's even more upsetting when you then go see that home and the buyer thinks that it's still active and available, and it's not. So getting set up within our MLS to know that information, to know what's on the market, even if it means you're buying in 12 months and just want to start getting an idea.
I don't even care if you want to buy 5 years from now. Like,
just to get an idea, all it is going to set you up on an email alert system, let you know when homes hit the market, the moment they actually list, so you know legitimately it's on or off the market. And you can get a gauge, see pictures, watch videos, get descriptions.
And just something to think about, you're probably going to buy and sell a home. The average person is like 3 to 4 times a year. I mean, 3 to 4 times within your lifetime. I do this like over a dozen times a year. Like I help people do this for a living.
Yep.
If I can answer some stupid small question that you are too embarrassed to ask anybody else, it's a win for me at the end of the day because I'm helping you out. That's the whole reason why I got my license in the first place.
And you can do that on Instagram at pat.loft in your DMs.
Or just call me.
Or call them. So last one I'm going to
My
put.
number's right here.
It's not because it's not having text in. But you want to say your phone number?
It's 302-359-0500, and they're going to put that number down here maybe.
Nope. It's not going to happen.
Poop.
And the last one I put on here, and this is something Loft's going to be offering. I think I spoke with the two people in our office who are going to be running it, Austin and Sarah. It's going to be coming up in May here in Dover, but attending a first-time homebuyer seminar or just getting around, like you had said, education around home buying, because the average person, like you said, is going to buy 3 to 4 homes in their lifetime if they ever do, and buying that first one's the hardest one.
Yeah.
So getting around education, and that could be through YouTube, right where you're at right now. It could be through your friend who's been an agent for 20 years. It could be through DMing one of us, or it could be through a first-time homebuyer seminar. And I guarantee if you go to Google or Facebook, like Facebook and like Eventbrite, and type in home buying, you're probably going to find a seminar in the area.
100%. And the biggest thing is, don't just generalize the information that you're for real estate on a national level, because the information that we're getting over in California is totally different than the information that we're getting over in Texas.
Yep.
So talk to somebody local and go to one of those seminars if you can.
That pretty much wraps it up. So again, to summarize, we went through a 12-month prep list, and that was getting a credit score right, monitoring a credit score, bank statement audits, make more money, save plus investing said money, connecting with an agent's MLS, attending first-time home buyer, getting around education. Going through our 101, we talked about the different loan programs, when's the best time to buy, what programs are in Delaware, renting versus buying, and a mortgage 101. What is it, how to get it. We didn't touch on who should I get pre-approved with too much. We did mention local lender is going to be the better option
Don't
than
go
a
to a
big
giant
bank.
business because they're not going to know the specifics for your area, and they're not going to answer the phone on nights and weekends, and that's where the majority of real estate happens.
Realistic amount of money to buy a home, about $7,500 if you're using DISHA, $12,000 to $15,000 if not. Closing cost to buy a home in Delaware, you're right around $10K. The other number we didn't bring up, average home price in Delaware right now is about $323. I'm sorry, median $323. And if anyone's looking to buy a home under $250, that's going to be tougher.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough if you're under 275, but if you're under 175, I'm really sorry, don't even look.
That's probably, I'd say the don't even look number might even be higher.
Well, I mean, there are certain areas that you can get an FHA home in Wilmington, but it's an FHA home in Wilmington.
And there's areas where you can take advantage of the fact that no one wants to be there, but you have to understand there's a reason in any case that no one wants to be there. So
Yeah.
location. And then, of course, we went through the Delaware State Housing Authority programs. The two programs we got that are brand new are the Home Sweet Home program and the Delaware Diamonds program. Delaware Diamonds being open to Delaware State employees, education system, medical personnel, first responders, and military. And the Home Sweet Home program to any first-time home buyer looking to buy under $285, which, of course, we just said is a little on the tougher angle. But
Depending on where you're at.
And there's programs now to help make it happen maybe a little bit more. And those loans are completely forgivable, which makes them not loans. Those are forgivable grants, which is great.
Which is grand.
Last takes, thoughts, concerns. I'm just going to push the mic away.
Buying a home's tough. You're going to be biting a bullet no matter what. Just make sure you have the right people by your side that A, are educated, and B, are getting you educated.
And C, care about you.
Yeah.
Have a great one.
Hey, man. I love you all.